It's less about the information than it is about the transfer of energy. I believe that when the audience is physiologically and emotionally drawn to an experience, they're going to remember the information more. If I come on stage and I just give you data, I say 85% of people this, and over the last quarter, we've had a 3.3 billion shift, and I walk through and I throw a bunch of charts on the screen, and you're looking and you're hearing me, but now your eyes are trying to decipher the information that's on the screen. And I've seen so many presenters and leaders do this. They come in, they say, "Hi, good morning, so glad to be here with you," and then they launch into
Here's
this
our performance
monologue
for last month,
of
right?
information. What
Or
is the
here's
experience?
all the
I
data
want
around
people to
why our
remember something.
product's better.
Yeah. I want people to remember something. I want them to take away something. I'll give you an example. Spoke at an organization, and I've done this several times. I've spoken in an organization, and I walk out on stage and I put a picture up on the screen of an ocean wave. And I say, "Oh my gosh, what is this?" And everybody says, "It's a wave." And then I say, "Well, you know what? I've been to sporting events. And every time I go to a sporting event, I see one of these. People look at it and they kind of smile a little bit. And then I say, well, you know what? As a matter of fact, let's turn this into a sporting event really quickly. Let's do the wave." And then I'll direct the audience and I'll give them different cues to stand up and wave and yell at different times. And then they'll have them do it. And I'll run across the front of the room with my camera, recording them as they do the wave. Now, within the first 2 to 3 minutes of my talk, there is an energy in the room. And when there's that energy and they're like, "Oh my gosh, is this guy, who is this dude?" The question that their mind is asking is, what's next?
Yeah. Yeah.
What is the point? What is the connection from the wave? And then my question after that is, what would it be like if without little instruction, you could get a group of people to do the same thing at the same time, move in the same direction with the same amount of energy? What would that be like in your organizations? On me giving leadership statistics, that is giving a demonstration with energy that causes them to now remember what connection looks like and feels like.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Podcast, filled with marketing and leadership tips on launching and growing your business with your host, Deanne Mora.
Welcome back to the show. Today, we are diving into the core of what makes or breaks an organization, the ability to lead through powerful communication. Now, our guest today is a master of the stage and the boardroom. Robert Kennedy III, better known as RK3, is the CEO of Kinetic Communications and is a world-renowned leadership communications expert. He's worked with heavy hitters like AARP, the U.S. Coast Guard, and the National Realtors Association to help leaders deliver critical messages with total confidence. In an era when AI can clearly write our scripts in seconds, the question becomes, how do we show up with the energy, authenticity, and humor that a machine simply can't replicate? So, Robert, it's great to have you in the co-pilot seat today. Welcome to the show.
I love it. Thank you, Diane. Co-pilot. Yes. You're making me feel really powerful and great immediately.
Getting ready to take off. Now, first of all, I have to ask, when people see your name, do they ever confuse you with the other guy?
Well, yes, over the phone. I honestly, I have had moments where I've spoken to somebody over the phone or had an email conversation, and then I show up and they try to be subtle about it, but I get a little bit of a,
a little bit of an eyebrow raise. Well, let's start with your backstory. So what was your path to the stage?
Wow, that is a long backstory. I would say that out of college, I worked in mental health for about 3 years. And while I was doing that, I got involved with radio. So I was an intern with a news anchor for an AM radio station. From there, moved into teaching. I taught high school for 7 years. I was a physics and biology teacher. And then I moved into to college. I taught for an online university for a couple of years. And while I was doing those things, I started a couple of businesses. My first business that I started was a music promotions portal with an online radio station. And my primary job was to interview artists on the radio station and on the website. And I started a second business designing websites for a lot of those artists because they didn't have it. They didn't have any. And so that was the beginning of the entrepreneurial side of things for me. Moved from there into the e-learning or an instructional design space and was building courses for government orgs. And while doing that, began to train some of those organizations on how to build their content and leaned into the communication side of it quite a bit. And things grew from there. So I would say in 2017, I joined the National Speakers Association. 2018, I started Kinetic Communications. And here we are 8 years later.
Amazing. Well, and one of the things that you've said is that interpersonal problems can trace back to one thing, communication, which seems to make sense. But in the professional services world, we'll often see the rainmaker who is, let's say the partner of a firm, and they're the only ones who can sell because the junior staff don't say it right. So how do we coach a team to find their own voice of a leader so that the business can actually scale?
Well, what you presented, the scenario that you presented for me doesn't sound like a communication issue. It sounds almost like an ego issue. There is somebody who is walking into a space and they're the only ones who can do it and nobody else can do it right. If I am a business owner, if I am a leader that wants legacy, that wants sustainability, that wants succession planning, I'm going to lean into how do I delegate as much as possible? How do I equip people as much as possible to get to a space where if I'm not around, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm gone and passed on. It may just mean that I decided to take a cruise for 6 months around the world. If I'm not around, how does this business continue to scale, continue to grow? How do we continue to solve problems for the audience that we are committed to? And so we've really got to figure out how to create the culture of equipping, how to create the culture of upskilling and up-leveling your people. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, I mean, that
in the Robert way.
A little bit. I'm going to dive in a little bit more though, because I think, what you're saying, absolutely. So the leader has to let go. The leader has to give the team the tools. They have to equip them, but there's still this aspect of finding your voice as a company, so that if you have a team of reps, that there's a certain way that they communicate that is going to be consistent. And is going to deliver the results because of the fact that it's understanding those, whether it's the understanding the target personas and they're framing a message in a certain way. So if you were to walk into a team, I'll take a sales team as an example. How do you find that voice?
Yeah. Well, what you mentioned about the target personas, really becoming familiar with who those are. And each target persona speaks a specific language. That language may be a physical language. They may be international. It may be a cultural language. It may just be a geographical or neighborhood language, or specific language specific to a problem that they've had. What is the issue that they have, and what is the pain point that they have? How do I connect with them? Connectivity or connection is the real word inside of that. How do I connect with the audience that has the problem that we are positioned to solve? And I've got to do that not through the lens of the product, the process, or the program. I've got to do that through the lens of having the conversations, knowing what the experiences are, knowing what the expectations or outcomes they want are. Once I'm familiar with that, then I can almost create a playbook within my company and saying, yep, these are the problems that our customers have been having. Here's what they've been relating to us on a regular basis. And here's what we found has worked from a communication standpoint. Here are the words. Here are the phrases. Here are the sentences. Here are the stories that some of our customers have shared with us. And that may be testimonials or what we've led them through, so that we can then connect with customers who are new or prospects that have similar challenges.
And there's something you said there that I think I just want to emphasize a little bit more, and that is finding the words that have worked and the words that don't work. And, it's interesting because a lot of times, we'll ask a client for their brand guide and they give you something and here's our colors, here's our font. Maybe there's a little description of our vision and mission. But I remember at one point working with, it was a large international bank, and their brand guide went to such a greater extent of detail. It was, we say it this way, we don't say it this way. And so when you're, you have hundreds of thousands of people working in your company, or even if you're smaller, being able to have that consistency and make it really clear, because so it sounds like getting that out of the heads of the leaders so that it can be taught is a big piece of this. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The leaders, and that is a challenge that a lot of leaders have. They have not gotten it out on paper. They have not gotten it out of their brains. They instinctively know certain things. They know how to operate. Some of them are relational, and so they understand how to communicate and connect with people naturally. They have not been able to package it or get it out of their brains and share that with the organization so that it translates across the board, right? And so for us, even in my organization, in my company, their specificity is a communication value that we have. And so if we are responding to a client, if we're responding to an email, we don't use words like probably. We don't use words like literally or actually. We use specific words. If there is a question that is asked, we don't say we'll follow up with you as soon as possible. We'll say we'll follow up with you wherever we are within the next 48 hours, and we'll plan some next steps from there, so that the audience, the responder, the prospect, the person that is on the other end of the communication has an expectation, and we build trust through that specificity. If I say ASAP, as soon as possible, what is that? When is as soon as that's at your convenience? It's going to mean something
different to me than it means to the next person. So, you may have disappointed me and thrilled the next person just by saying ASAP.
Right. So that's for us. So if organizational leaders want to build even more trust, what is your brand voice? What is the language that you utilize, not just to communicate internally, but to communicate externally and build trust with your customers as well?
And what all goes into, so, we're touching on something really important here for any brand. We're talking about brand voice. So what is it that goes into a brand voice? So if you were to ask me, what is the voice of your company? What would you expect me to give you? Or what would you hope that I would give you?
Well, I would hope that you'd give me, first of all, the voice of the vision. So, and here's what I mean by that. The leader of the company or the leadership team of the company hopefully has a direction that they're sending the organization in. Hopefully they've painted a picture, and that picture is something that drives the organization or permeates the organization. Is that vision a vision that is inspiring and energetic? Is that vision a vision that is reflective and compassionate and caring? Okay. I would expect something different from a nonprofit that deals with domestic violence than from a clothing brand that wants people to look good. I would expect a different voice. I would expect a different tonality from them. If the domestic violence nonprofit has a voice where they are talking about image or the way that people look and people should look good and people should do this, I would think they're tone deaf. I would think they've lost a little bit of their way. But if they're talking to me about making sure that nobody experiences this, if they're talking about they're talking about in our community or in our county, here what the numbers for domestic violence look like. And here are some of the strategies that we're implementing over the next 5 years to decrease that, to educate the community. That's a different voice. That's a different tone. That's a different emotion
Yeah.
inside of that. So yeah, I want to know what the vision is, and does the voice match with that?
Energize people around that. That
Yeah.
makes sense. And the idea of the vision evoking a feeling, like something
Mhm.
I need to feel some kind of way about what it is that you're putting in front of me, whether it's,
Yep.
positive, whether you're going to, inspire me, but you're going to make me angry. And so I'm passionate and I want to go do something, or you're going to make me, feel soft. You're going to make me feel good. You're going to, whatever it is, but what is the feeling of the brand? It sounds like is a big part of voice as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So speaking of energy as a feeling, I know you're known for being incredibly energetic and passionate, little, very, very out there on stage. So in a world of, we're all on too many Zooms and, there's dry webinars. And so how much of connecting is about the information versus the literal transfer of energy to the audience?
It's less about the information than it is about the transfer of energy. I believe that when the audience is physiologically and emotionally drawn to an experience, they're going to remember the information more. If I come on stage and I just give you data, I say 85% of people this, and over the last quarter, we've had a $3.3 billion shift, and I walk through and I throw a bunch of charts on the screen, and you're looking and you're hearing me, but now your eyes are trying to decipher the information that's on the screen. And I've seen so many presenters and leaders do this. They come in, they say, "Hi, good morning, so glad to be here with you," and then they launch into this monologue
last month,
of information. What is the experience?
Here's all the data.
I want people to remember something. Yeah. I want people to remember something. I want them to take away something. I'll give you an example. I spoke at an organization, and I've done this several times. I've spoken in an organization, and I walk out on stage and I put a picture up on the screen of an ocean wave. And I say, "Oh my gosh, what is this?" And everybody says, "It's a wave." And then I say, "Well, you know what? I've been to sporting events, and every time I go to a sporting event, I see one of these. People look at it and they kind of smile a little bit. And then I say, well, you know what? As a matter of fact, let's turn this into a sporting event really quickly. Let's do the wave." And then I'll direct the audience and I'll give them different cues to stand up and wave and yell at different times. And then they'll have them do it. And I'll run across the front of the room with my camera, recording them as they do the wave. Now, within the first 2 to 3 minutes of my talk, there is an energy in the room. And when there's that energy and they're like, "Oh my gosh, is this guy, who is this dude?" The question that their mind is asking is, what's next?
Yeah. Yeah.
What is the point? What is the connection from the wave? And then my question after that is, what would it be like if without little instruction, you could get a group of people to do the same thing at the same time, move in the same direction with the same amount of energy? What would that be like in your organizations?
That's a great question. I love that. Yeah.
Right. So now they're thinking, but that is not based on me giving leadership statistics. That is giving a demonstration with energy that causes them to now remember what connection looks like and feels like.
It's like the in-person version of stopping the scroll, right? It's like
Yeah.
you triggered an emotional reaction and now you have their attention. Everyone is listening to the same podcast about the latest AI breakthroughs. Business owners are playing around with ChatGPT, expecting magic, but seeing zero impact on their bottom line. Here's the reality. Tech alone is not enough. Features get copied in days and hype cycles burn fast. To actually grow, brands don't just need better tools, they need systems to scale. That's why the Alchemy firm exists. They don't just implement AI, they build go-to-market infrastructure that professional services need to dominate. That includes people, process, and technology. For owners ready to move beyond the hype, the Alchemy firm is offering a free fractional CMO AI agent customized specifically for their business. Stop playing with the tech, build the system. Visit alchemyfirm.ai today. That's alchemyfirm.ai.
Yep.
Whatever that reaction is going to be. I know that you work heavily with the real estate industry, which is a sector that, like mine in marketing, is being disrupted by tech and in particular AI. How do you help a leader to stay authentic and even maybe humorous when they're delivering complex and possibly even scary news about industry shifts? Because that's obviously a big topic today. People are concerned, what is all of this going to mean to me? What's it going to mean to my company? What's it going to mean to my career? How do you coach a leader to communicate that?
Yeah, I believe that every memorable bit of information is delivered through a story arc of some sort. That may be that you're delivering the story of the organization. It may be that you're delivering a story of a customer. If I start at a place where I can not just cause you to hear me, but I can transport your mind to a place where you're playing your own video in your brain. I've got this simple framework that I share with leaders, and it's called the EASE framework, EASE. The first E is energy, the A is ask, the S is story, the last E is explain. And I'd say, okay, build it backwards, deliver it forwards. So as we build it, what is it that you want the people in the audience to know? What do you want to explain to them? What's the point that you want to make? Okay, they share that. Okay, good. What is a story that you can use to bring that point to light? Okay, we've got a quick story. Okay, what is a question that you can ask to lead them into that story? Got it. Perfect. What is the energy that you want? That may frame the question that you ask. Do I want them to be energized? Do I want them to be enthusiastic? Or do I want them to be reflective? Okay, so as I share that, yeah, we've got technology. Yeah, we've got AI. Yeah, we've got all of this stuff, but we're still human beings having human experiences. How can I tap into that by figuring out what I want them to take away? What do I want them to know? What do I want them to do? And then I can tap the story and the information into that.
No, I like that. It seems like a very simple model to remember for a leader. You can picture having the letters up on the on your office wall to deliver that. Because a lot of people talk about the story arc, but then sometimes they overcomplicate it, I think, and that can sort of dilute it. But so I know, we're talking a lot since we're talking about AI, and we're talking about building AI agents that can handle intake or sales calls. That's a big one these days, right? You're going to get sold to by a bot. So from your perspective as a voiceover artist, as a radio guy, as someone who's an expert in communications, what is the kind of that uncanny valley of communication that AI will never be able to cross? Or is there one? Is AI going to completely, we're going to have humanoid sales reps at some point?
I don't have I don't know. I cannot prognosticate, or I can't predict fully what that will be. What I do know is that we are in a place right now where it's overwhelming to some people. It's moving so quickly, and AI is growing, and it's great. I run out of usage time on my AI quite frequently. Right? But there are things that AI. I don't know if AI will ever be able to follow the variety or the bouncing of human thought. I can have a conversation with you, and I'll be sharing with you a story, and I'll say, hey, Diane, well, listen, I was out at dinner with my friend last night, and we were talking about this TV show that we were binging on. Wait a minute, hold on, put a pin right there. I want to tell you about this, and I tell you about something else, and then I come back to the other story, and you're with me and you're following me this entire time. I don't know that AI has that variety or that human unpredictability just yet. If I prompt AI to do something, it's going to follow me down that path.
It's very goal.
But as a human, humans are unpredictable.
It's true. Yeah. At any given time, our thoughts are bouncing all over the place. And the
Yeah.
fact that we're able to, have that level of conversation and bounce all over the place together, that helps our relationship. And
Yep.
people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And so,
Yep.
are you going to be able to know, like, and trust a bot? Now, certainly for something transactional,
Yep.
sometimes it's even better, right? Because there's some things that you go to buy and you just don't want to deal with somebody trying to convince you of something. You know what you want, you just want to go get it. So yeah, I'm happy to have my bot go do the groceries for me, right? There's not a lot of complex decision making there, but if I'm buying a service from you, let's say I'm having a conversation with you, maybe you're going to be my attorney or you're going to be my realtor. I want to know more about, I want to feel that, you know your stuff. I want to feel like I can work with you. So how do I, just from a human dynamics perspective, how do we send those cues to each other that we can work together? We can have a good working relationship. So it's an interesting point about sort of single-threaded versus multi-threaded in terms of thought with AI.
Yeah. And because AI, although we've seen the movies, although we've heard the comments, AI is going to take over the world. There's going to be a malevolent AI that will just go rogue. And we hear that stuff. AI is a technology, and it still at some point requires human input, human training of some sort. And so human beings will still always be involved in the process. And what I would recommend to people is not to be nervous about it, but figure out push it and figure out what some of the limits are, learn about it so that you can then even be more aware of how different humans are than technology and artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it is interesting that it's, it does have the ability to learn from itself now. And there's some scientific thought as to, whether the models have some form of consciousness. I mean, it's really quite interesting where it's all going. But I think, maybe we should all be polite when we're running our queries just in case. You never know.
Yeah.
But seriously, so I know you've tied better communications, which is what we've been talking about here today, directly to bigger profits, which makes sense. But could you maybe share a moment of truth or an example where a client's shift in presentation or communication style led to a tangible business breakthrough or closed a whale of a deal?
Yeah. So there are quite a few different examples that I can give. One is specifically around video. I've had clients that have done webinars or they've done video live streams and appeared on video in some way and didn't want to do it or didn't feel like they were professional, or so they stopped being consistent with it. I just spoke with a client last week who was telling me that they'd signed some contracts because of some stuff that we taught them in our video challenges 2 years ago. And part of what happened was they were showing up on webinars and they had these slides that were dense and data heavy. And so the slides are on screen and they're in this little Zoom box in the corner. And so nobody in the chat was saying to them, hey, I wish I could see you more. But what was happening was they were not getting the conversions that they wanted. They were not getting the follow-up conversations that they wanted. So we did a little bit of work with them and showed them how to really engage with their prospects, with their attendees, with their audience much more effectively. Some of that is, although we're on Zoom, although we're virtual, people still need to see your eyes. They still need to see your face. They still need to interact with you in some way. And so how do you do that? What is the structure? What is the framework? What is the story arc that you're utilizing in this webinar? And how do you leverage that along with the visual communication and connection? And so we walked through that and they started to follow that, and they started to get feedback from their audience. Oh my gosh, I feel like you know me. Oh my gosh, I feel like you were talking right to me. I don't even feel like there was anybody else in the room. It was just us. And so they began to book more follow-up calls. They began to have more conversations, and that led directly to more deals for them.
No, I love that. And, so I'm hearing you say that the connection, so don't mistake Zoom for just being, you're not just spitting out content. It's just a digital way of trying to form a connection with another human being or a group of human beings. And Absolutely. the communication style and clarity would be also incredibly important because, we know from a marketing perspective that your personal brand as a leader is everything. I'm always telling leaders that, it is not optional for you to have your personal brand top of funnel for your business. It's not optional anymore. You must be out there, but not everyone either feels comfortable, or in some cases they fall into that expert trap, right? Where they're, they want to just spew information and they don't present in a way that actually engages and connects, or maybe they speak too quickly. And so is that all the type of coaching that you're able to provide for leaders?
Yeah, that is a piece of it. And what you said just now was so key, because businesses think that, okay, yep, we got the logo, we got the Coca-Cola brand, and if people see the logo, they're going to buy. And we're in the influencer era. There is so much online. There are so many different people. There's so much noise out there that people are initially hesitant to purchase or to make decisions about anything. And so you've got to be in a space where, number one, they see you repeatedly, right? There's this effect called the Zeigarnik effect, or the mere exposure effect, where people make decisions much more easily simply by the fact that they see something or see someone more often. They begin to create connection and relationship with that. And so if you are in a space where they see you, they can hear you, they can understand your beliefs and your values, they begin to create even more connection with you. And that is how you begin to build trust. So any business owner who is saying, nope, I want to be behind the scenes, I want to be hidden, I just want to have a faceless video channel, at some point, yeah, you may be able to sell some stuff, but at some point, it's going to come to a decision is going to be need to be made by a customer, and they're going to make the decision by which brand or which company they vibe with more, or they have more in common with. And so being on screen, being out front, creating that personal brand gives you much more of a window or ability to do that with your customers.
I could not agree more. Well said. And so for our founders who are listening and maybe they feel like they're rowing it alone, what's the first touch point that they should look for to start motivating their team through purposeful leadership and communications today?
Wow. Questions. Asking questions, figuring out and getting connected and closer to your team. Too often leaders, they know that they have employees, or they know that they have a team, but they don't know their team. They don't know what they do. They don't know what they love or like or what they're interested in. They don't even know if they're a fit for the company. They just know that they have a team. So I would recommend to leaders, especially, asking more questions, getting connected. And some of that might not necessarily be personal questions. It may be about their perspective on what they're doing at the organization. They may be on the boots on the ground. They may be on the ground level. They may have more closer relationships or interactions with the customers. Start finding out from them, hey, based on your interactions, what are you seeing? What trends are you seeing? What perspectives? What's been resonating? Asking questions and having regular times where you can just sit and ask and data gather and create connection with your teams in that way.
There's an overarching theme that I'm hearing to our conversation as we go through everything, and it's be human. I'm always talking about, the yin and yang of marketing. And so, on the one side, you have, you have a lot of technology, you have AI that's able to do things. It's able to make us more efficient. We can achieve goals we never thought possible in a far faster period of time than we ever thought possible. But on the other side, it's about connections and being human and forming relationships, because all that stuff that you're going to do that's going to bring attention your way, we're still people. We still want to work with people, right?
Yeah. And you would think that's easy, right? Being human.
It's easier for some than others. All right. You ready for some rapid fire?
Let's go.
All right.
Let's do it.
I think I know the answer to this first one. You have to give a keynote with either no slides or no microphone. Which one do you pick?
No slides.
What's one word or phrase that people say that makes your inner radio news anchor cringe?
Whatever.
That one. Who's a tougher audience, a room full of realtors or a Sunday morning congregation?
Room full of realtors, I would say. I'm going to even add one to that. Kids.
Ooh,
Elementary school kids.
yes, not very forgiving. What's one thing that you will never let an AI write for you?
A letter to my wife.
Oh, good choice. If you had to pick a walk-on song for every CEO to enter the boardroom to, what would it be?
Man, you're getting me. Now I've got to sort through my music
I'm making you
library.
think. I hope you had your coffee.
How about getting jiggy with it?
Ooh, my goodness. That's a disruptor, right? That'll get people
Yes.
going, whoa, what's next?
Yes.
What's the fastest way to get your energy back after a 4-hour workshop?
Fast. I sleep. That's what I do. I sleep. I take at least a 30-minute
Take a
nap.
nap.
Yeah.
In one word, what is the secret to purposeful leadership?
Faith.
Love it. Awesome. It's been so much fun having you here, Robert. Tell us, how can people reach out to you? What can you help them with? Where can they find you if they want to connect after the podcast?
I love it. RobertKennedy3.me is the easiest way to connect. All of my programs and social channels, everything is there. That is our central hub for connecting. What do? We work with business leaders, business owners, sharing with them, equipping them to be more confident in their communication in person and on stage, in person and on video. And yeah, that's who we are, what we do. And I'd love to touch bases with you. Matter of fact, we have got a workshop coming up soon, one of our public workshops called the Hidden Language Habits of Smart Leaders. And so you can go to kineticworkshops.com/smart leaders to register for that.
Wonderful. We'll put that in the show notes as well. Thanks again, Robert. It's been a pleasure.
Same here. Thank you.